Can we see the table of contents for the book? Well, yeah, when you have a chance, maybe let's go to the table of contents.
Because I didn't come across something that sort of laid out the...
All right, so we are going into a whole new book, and we're going to do the next 5 weeks will be on Schulman, which is really talks about practice in action. And so we're going to be taking the contents from HBSE and applying it with clinical theories and practice methods for the next 5 weeks.
And we're going to, week by week, we'll break down one of these different kind of counseling or practice skills. But I thought today, let's start with kind of just an overview of what we're going to do.
So when you think about the helping process, social work likes to break it down into 5 different stages. And they say 5 stages, but it's not like it's really linear, but it's entwined. So think of a woven fabric, and these are different threads that are always built in order to make that helping relationship really effective. And they are engagement, assessment, intervention, termination, and evaluation. And so we're going to go through each of these one each week and really dive deeper.
And these are skills that you're already engaged in, either through your work, through your internship now. And this is just an opportunity to really step back and think more formally about the process, to bring more critical thinking to what you're doing, either in work, in the field, in your social work practice.
Great.
So this very first week, we're going to be looking at engagement. And what engagement is, so in essence, you start engagement before you even see the client. You are making yourself either aware of the possible content or nature of what's going on for that client. You're aware of the scope of practice of your agency and what you're able to do. And you're also very in touch with yourself as a professional with the ethical boundaries, and so that you are already coming prepared for that. And part of that whole cultural humility and transcultural perspective is coming with an openness and a curiosity to get to know this person as they see themselves and as they see their world.
Yeah, and I would say adding on to that, part of that pre-preparation is also making sure that you have a place to meet with the client that's going to be appropriate, that if you're getting into kind of really private information, that you're able to create some kind of privacy and safety for the client. If you're lucky, it'll be your own counseling room, but for some of our other settings, especially if you're in a home, thinking about how you're going to create that sense of safety is important too.
And as well, especially with home visiting, but not always with home visiting, your safety is important too. And there may be times when you have a certain approach in terms of using a private counseling room where you make different decisions depending on what you know about your client or what you learn on the way to the private room. And so those are all things that are going to factor in to your engagement of your client.
Because a lot of what engagement is developing trust. And it's absolutely required that we help the client trust us, but we also have to feel safe because that's part of trust and it becomes a mutual relationship. In engagement, in the actual meeting with the client, what you're doing is developing a setting of respect and trust, confidentiality within the scope of your intervention, and letting them know that it's safe for them to be who they are and that you're here to help.
Great. Should we just quickly maybe talk about some of the other weeks and some of the other skills? So, what we'll do with assessment. I think that sounds like a good week to introduce and look through DSM, right, as part of thinking about how we do assessment. And then how are you bring in the kind of the work around theories that we've done over the last 5 weeks and bring that in as part of your assessment, as well as learning whatever, the assessment forms are that are required by your organization, right, or your funding source. Medi-Cal has very specific assessment forms that they want us to use.
And it's that balance between assessment being both a product often and a process. And how do we produce the product that we may be called upon by our agencies to do, but also really understand the process that starts when, even before, like we've said, you meet someone, and continues through every step of our work together.
Great. And what are we going to do? Anything you want to add about assessment, Nicole?
No, we're going to get to practice more, so that's going to be fun. And part of that whole biopsychosocial that we were going through, this is really put it into action, and you can really understand why you're collecting this information. It's because each person is a bit of a mystery, and we're going to be diving in to understand the different cues that they give us so that we can understand how best to help them. And then we're going to go into interventions. And so then once you've created an environment in which they feel safe to express themselves and to really let you in their world, then they'll be telling you more information, and that's part of the assessment, right? And then with that assessment, the two of you, this is always a partnership, the two of you are then moving into intervention. And intervention is absolutely, you're drawing from your training and experience to figure out what might be best for this person, but they are part of understanding what that intervention is and whether or not that intervention is going to be right for them. And so part of this is that partnership, that we both are doing the engagement, we're both doing the assessment, we're both doing the intervention. And for some agencies, you're going to be doing a treatment plan, which will really make concrete what those interventions are. And I like to think of a treatment plan as just, it's an agreement between the two of us. It's not just, are they doing what they need to do, but am I being helpful in a way that you need me to be?
Yeah, and I think this is another place where theory comes back into play, and many interventions are theory-based for evidence-based practice, right? It's really helpful to have a theoretical base for the intervention that you put together. So, theories, some of the social learning theories, some of the behavioral theories, they really connect well with our understanding of interventions and well, psychodynamic theories too, right? And how what we're actually doing in that intervention.
And we always have to have our eye on what we are doing, what the goals that we have set with our clients. Because if we don't, we will never know whether we've succeeded in reaching the outcomes. And without that, we don't really know as social workers whether we have helped people affect the change that they're looking for in their lives.
And one of the cool things about social work is that we don't believe that we're the expert on the client, that we really do believe that we're in partnership with them. And then we go to termination. And many people will tell you that you start termination the moment you see the client. And really what they're talking about there is that our job is to help them go forth and do what they want. So our whole point is to be able to get to a place where termination happens. And so you're already preparing and building for that.
And certainly for some of the interventions, I'm thinking of like brief, short-term brief interventions. It's really important that your plan for termination starts right away. Absolutely.
And then we talk about evaluation. And just like all of these different stages, they actually are entwined. So it's not like you suddenly decide you should evaluate the thing. This is something that you're doing ongoing. But definitely at the end, you're trying to figure out what was helpful, what was not helpful.
And part of that process in doing that is for you to know, but also for your client or clients to know, with the idea that it's also something they can draw upon in their lives in the future as well.
All right, that's it. So this is it's a little preview of our next 5 weeks, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be doing a lot more interaction and role plays among ourselves, and you'll get to practice this in a safe setting.
Great.